Thank you so much for being here. We have wonderful, wonderful candidates that are going to talk to you about their platform and who they are. We hope that you will vote. Voting will begin the week after spring break. If you have any additional questions for our candidates, we'll be having a town hall on Wednesday in the President's Room, so you're welcome to come again. And yeah, have a good time. I hope you guys enjoy the night, and I'll stop talking so we can hear from our candidates. So the way this is going to go is we're going to have a list of questions for you guys, and we'll specify who the question is for. We'll get started with questions for everybody, and then there will be some specific to the president candidates, and then some specifically for the VPs, and then we'll finish off at the end with maybe some fun questions. But first and foremost, if you could please introduce yourself by your name, your major, and then tell us why you decided to run.
Hello everyone, my name is Rush Romero. I'm a first-year French horn performance major. Currently, I am the senator for the Conservatory of Music. I decided to run to further my goals of increasing transparency in ASUOP and UOP as a whole.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle Wogermuth. I'm a third-year political science major, and I'm also involved kind of everyone on campus. I'm currently the senator for the College of Pacific, so if you're in COP, I'm your representative. I'm also a Powell Scholar, a legal scholar. That's where this name tag comes from, and kind of done a thing or two around on campus as well. The reason I ran is basically the same reason I joined ASUOP in the first place, and it kind of just boils down to one word: advocacy. A couple years ago, there was a tuition forum where students had the chance to stand up and talk about something that was affecting them, whether it is they are having trouble paying a tuition, or like they're thinking about dropping out, or their friends have already dropped out. Being an RA, I've had a resident who has dropped out because of financial reasons, and when that happened, it hit me hard. And one of the things that I did is that I looked at my phone and like, at the very least, if we're paying this much, we ought to know what's happening with our money. So I looked up what other universities that I had applied to had done with their budgets, what was available online, what was really easy to see, and I compared it to ours, and it was a very stark contrast. And that day I stood up and I said something about that, and since then I had been getting more involved. Eventually somebody reached out to me from ASUOP, and I became a senator. And just at its core, that simple act of advocacy led me to join ASUOP, to continue that fight, to speak on behalf of students and to affect change here at the university. But there's only so much a senator can do. So I'm trying to take that advocacy to the next step by running for president.
Hello. Okay. Hi, my name is Randy Holguin. I'm running for ASUOP president along with my person right to the left, which is Liz. I'm a business major, and I'm also involved on campus. Within ASUOP, I'm on the Arts and Entertainment team as booking manager. I'm a CIP scholar, so Community Involvement Program, and I work in athletics as a marketing intern. So a few reasons why I ran this year. I actually ran last year, and I was inspired last year to run actually by a mentor. I talked to her a lot about the issues I seen on campus and the change I wanted to make, and she's like, what better way than ASUOP president? So it was like a last minute decision last year. I got everything together, I ran, came in second, so that was pretty awesome for someone who didn't even see herself there in the first place. And so I came back this year because I think that I can spark change on campus, and I listen, and I want to be able to be there for students and make a difference, and whatever they're telling me, I want to be able to bring that to the next level and actually see the change happen. So that's part of the reason why I ran again this year, as well as with the support of Liz. We both have some really great ideas that we want to implement, and it's not about the title, it's not about me. I purely ran because of the students and because of the issues that I hear around campus, so that's why I'm here.
Hello everyone. My name is, can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, cool. I need to make sure I'm being heard. So my name is Liz Malone. I am a third-year English major. Woo, go English! And I'm also an ethnic studies minor and teaching professions, and my aspiration is to become the coolest middle school teacher around. I was involved with ASUOP for about a year and a half. I did recently resign to have a temporary financial increase, I guess, because tuition is getting expensive AF. But I decided to run with Randy because she has a lot of strong views to make Pacific just a wonderful place. We don't have enough representation on campus. We also don't have a lot of student involvement within like university committees, and we want to change that. We want to make Pacific a home for people. We want to make it a community, and we want to make it a safe place for everyone to be involved. And also check us out, 2 strong leading women ready to get the ticket. I think we're going to be the first, if we were to win, like the first women ticket to win. Yeah, anyways, cool. Just a fun fact for y'all.
What has been your greatest leadership achievement to date?
Currently, I'm a part of the Financial Transparency Committee in the ASUOP Senate. We're working together to try and increase financial transparency directly from the administration. One of our main goals is to have more student involvement in university finances, or just have more information from them. So we're scheduling and organizing regular meetings with the administration, with the president and the chief financial officer. And we're gonna ask them student-based questions on finances, and that is I feel like that is one of my greatest achievements, just for student involvement in administration.
Hi everyone, Kyle again. I'd say, looking back on the things that I've done in leadership, I would have to hand what I feel to be the greatest, and at least what I'm most proud of, is the work that I did on behalf of the Legal Scholars Program last year, pursuant to the proposed budget cuts that went around. I know a lot of people felt those last year. ASUOP definitely was hit as well. We lost a few valuable advisors, and we've kind of been swimming in the deep end ever since. But I know there's a lot of organizations on campus where some people lost a class that they were hoping to take. Some people lost specific people, and for the Legal Scholars Program in particular, the proposed cut was to one of our staff members, Dylan Zaria. He has, since the program's founding, has been a valuable asset to the program. And last year, his position as part of that Legal Scholars Program was in jeopardy. Basically, across the board, academic programs at the university were supposed to face an average of a 10% cut. But the Legal Scholars Program, the proposed cut to that was 33.1%, which, I'm not a math major, but it is significantly larger. And when the Legal Scholars and I found out about that, we were noticeably upset. And as a senator at the time, and as somebody who was just upset and wanted to do something, I helped organize the Legal Scholars and to write a petition and get as many legal scholars as we could to sign it, to basically petition to Provost Pallavicini, who's provost at the time, interim president now, to reconsider this decision and to support a program that has continuously brought students into the university, supported them in learning skills that will be super valuable in for their professional career, helping them decide whether or not to go to law school. A wonderful program that is revenue generating and student centered, which isn't always something that we have in spades at this university. And such a massive cut just didn't make sense. It's a bit more eloquent in the petition. But I drafted that, and the Legal Scholars helped me refine it down to a page. And then I went around and got signatures from people who wanted to support us, others who were legal scholars and felt the pain very close to home. And I myself and a couple of the legal scholars, I see a couple of them here, talked to Maria Pallavicini on behalf of the program for a few hours, advocating our best. And then a few hours and a couple follow-up meetings later, we eventually heard the news that Dylan Zaria was going to be offered a reduced rate, but being offered as a part to stay in the program. And this was the first time at the university where I realized that my words and my actions on behalf of other students can actually affect a visible material change. That advocacy is something that can and should happen at this university, and that the doors for that are wide open for students to seize upon. So if I'm talking about my greatest leadership achievement, it has to be sparking and leading that grassroots movement to make a real difference for at least a small number of students at this university. And especially Dylan, he's so happy that he gets to stay here. That's where I stand.
So, whoa, that was loud. Sorry, I didn't mean to come off that loud. One of my greatest leadership achievements is actually something I did this year and am still currently doing. I am in ASUOP's Arts and Entertainment team. I'm the booking manager, and so what the booking manager does is I create a Brickyard series. So I don't know if have any of you guys heard of the Brickyard series? Yeah, cool. So every Thursday, or not every Thursday, but every other Thursday night. And one of my goals this year, not one of them, pretty much the main goal was to create diverse and inclusive shows and to show other students who might not be able to get the chance to see these different types of things to see them. And so I talked about that last year in my campaign, was bringing more awareness to diversity and inclusion and exposing people to that. And so I wanted to keep that true and stay with my word, so I did it in any way I could find, and that's how I did it through my leadership position through ASUOP. So I created the Brickyard series based off of diversity and inclusion. So some of my events were bringing a mariachi band for Dia de los Muertos, as well as bringing a belly dancer to show Middle Eastern culture. In the future, so March 19th, a little plug here, I'm having a drag show to represent LGBTQ plus students on campus. So those are just a few. I have tons of them on the Brickyard series website that you guys can go take a look at, but I really centered it around that because I think it's important. I think it's important that people get exposure and the knowledge of different areas of where we live, our community, but not only that, the nation we live in. We are a diverse group, and I want to make sure that Pacific represents that. So personally, that's one of my leadership skills that I think I really brought and executed to this campus, as well as something personal that I don't think a lot of people know about, but in the CIP program, we have a program called Chase Your Dreams, and I'm a Chase mentor. So I go out to 7th and 8th grade, or to elementary schools, and I mentor 7th and 8th grade students, and honestly, I think that's one of the best ways that you can be a leader is by sharing your knowledge and sharing the resources that you have with others, especially with the youth, knowing that they're able to go to college, especially Pacific, that it is accessible for them. So they may be a few years off, but we're still constantly recruiting students to come here, but also empowering them to know that they can come to college and that they can be successful and that there is a place for them in this world, and as well as in college and in the future in their professional life, they can do something. So in terms of leadership, I think empowerment is probably one of the best things that you can do, and through my position through booking manager as well as a Chase mentor, that's what leadership looks like to me, is empowering other students as well as the youth, and I think that I've done pretty well with that.
And that's why, everyone, I am running with Randy, because she has a dream and she accomplishes it, and she has such a strong work ethic. I'm going to say my biggest, or I guess most proud leadership accomplishment was probably about last year. Some colleagues and I, well, I'm going to say really good friends, but we decided to throw a protest against the regents and the administration for this high increasing tuition rates. Now, we had over, I think, like about 300 students attend. The protest was covered by local news as well as national news. It was in Inside Higher Ed. It was supposed to be like just raising awareness to these high costs and unaffordability. As Kyle mentioned earlier, just about everyone here knows someone who's dropped out due to just high rates. And I think that was a smash hit. Also that year, I helped lead different tuition forums and forums in general. I worked to coordinate those and to get student perspectives on different issues on campus. I also did the same this year, and I don't know, it's like empowering to see students come together just to fight for something, especially for something that really matters a lot for them, like this.
Okay, thank you for all of you guys for sharing. I have a specific question for the presidents. First, can you hear me? Okay, good. Okay, so due to administrative and financial changes that have occurred at Pacific over the last 2 years, some argue that the overall climate on campus has been challenging for students. How would you uplift the morale and the culture of Pacific and its student body?
All right, well, let me begin by saying that I am definitely one of the some who would argue that the campus climate has been affected, especially by the administrative changes, the budget changes. I think we explained that pretty viscerally with legal scholars and just especially the protests as well. Everyone has taken a hit in some way, some way, shape, or form. And those losses are just varied. Some of it is we lose a course, some of it we lose a beloved faculty member, sometimes we have fellow friends who have to leave for financial reasons. And our morale really has taken a hit through mutual, just holistic loss. And loss, continued holistic loss, what it does is it quashes hope. Hope that tuition stops rising beyond the unsustainable rate it's already at. I hope that the programs and people that we love here stay here at least until we graduate. Hope that someday soon we can have a real say in the decision-making process that happens at this university, whether it's in the Board of Regents or just in various committees where student voices are heard, but whether or not we actually have a real vote in the things that matter to us is still up to question. What I will bring to Pacific as president is that hope, because hope is on the horizon. We're going to have a new president next year, not just ASUOP, the university. And with a new president, there is an opportunity for change. Presidents tend to come in, bring a whole new staff, and I can guarantee in some way, shape, or form, Pacific is going to change in the next several years. But to return to hope, to turn that hope into reality, we have to speak it into existence. We can't just say, well, we're going to have another president next year. Hopefully things get better. We have to have somebody who goes up there and says, this is what we want to have better. This is how we want it to be better. And we've been saying this for years and years. And you better be the person who does it, or else there will be another protest. My entire career on the Senate in ASUOP has been advocating for these things. I've personally gone to many tuition forums. That's how I got my start, advocating for a better tuition model, for more transparency. I've advocated on behalf of student programs, especially those that are very student-centered, that are beneficial to students, all students and different sects of students. I have personally written a resolution that was sent to the Board of Regents that they're currently considering about whether or not to add a student regent into their ranks so that we can have real representation, a real vote at the highest table at the university. I've been advocating for that ever since I got here, nonstop. I work very hard as an advocate for everybody on the Senate. I think if you can ask your senator, they will probably agree that I have worked tirelessly on behalf of every project that I'm involved in on the Senate. I think we should live at a university where shared governments isn't just a memo or just a phrase that's tossed aside. I think we should have that mean something. And I think if we're going to have that mean something, then we need somebody who's going to speak it into existence. And so in order to improve morale, I think students want real change. Everybody here wants real change, but a lot of students feel defeated. I think we should give those students a voice, and I think I am very qualified to be that voice on behalf of students, to listen to students and also speak their words into existence at the highest table.
Can you repeat the question one more time? I just want to make sure I answer it fully.
Yes, so due to administrative and financial changes that have occurred at Pacific over the last 2 years, the overall climate on campus has been challenging for students. What would you do to uplift the morale and culture of Pacific and its student body?
So personally, I've had experience with this. So I just want to give a little background on my experience with it and why I feel it's so important. So I mentioned this before, I work in ASUOP, Arts and Entertainment, as well as Athletics. This year, and in the CIP program, I've lost all 3 of my bosses or advisors. This hit hard because it all happened at the same time. And not only did it affect me, but it affected everybody that I work with and that I'm surrounded with. And a lot of it was that we had to support ourselves, and it was great for leadership-wise, building leadership skills, taking things on your own, not having anybody above you. That was great, but we also need the support. And there is a lack of morale within students because we don't have people to turn to for advice or for that support or for the guidance. And so one of the things that I was actually talking about today was I've sat on a couple committees for different people that are going to be coming into the university, interview committees. And one thing that I really look for in an administrative person is that they're actively out there fighting for us and that they speak up for us. Because it's one thing for us to give our opinions, but it's another thing for them to take those opinions and actually fight for them. Sure, they can mention them, but once there's that pushback, it's what they do after that that is really important and what counts. And so kind of putting myself in those shoes, like me looking for someone higher than me, I would be that person as well for the students. And so I can't ask for something that I wouldn't give, and that's exactly what I want to give. I want to be there to listen. I want to be there to fight. I want to go into student spaces and hear what they're passionate about, adopt that passion, and fight for them on that level as if I was one of them. Because that's what's important to me. Anything that's important to the students is important to me. I really want to be there to listen and make those changes. And I feel that to boost morale, that's one of the ways you have to do is through support, through initiative, through listening, especially listening, that's the important part, as well as just fighting and not taking no for an answer. That's one of the things that I like to say I do well is when I get told no, it's like a boost of energy to go out there and find a way for them to say yes. So that is exactly what I would do for the students, and that's just me.
Also for the presidents, state one specific initiative you have and describe how you envisioned it, bringing it to life if you were voted into office.
Hi, Kyle again. 2 of my big campaign points are inclusiveness and legacy. Inclusiveness is something that everyone up here can get behind. Certainly nobody's going to come up here and say inclusiveness is bad. I don't think anybody on stage even wants to do that, or in the crowd for that matter. But we can agree on inclusiveness, but the question then becomes, what do we do to make it better? And I have 2 big ideas of things that I want to do. I'm open to more if people want to talk to me after. But first, I have to relate a story of myself. I know another story. When I was first brought on in the Senate, I was brought on partway through. There was an opening partway through the year, and somebody asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, and eventually bureaucratic processes happened, and I was there, but I didn't really know what to do, how to do it, and a lot of that I had to figure out for myself. I didn't really have a distinct person who spent a lot of time being my mentor, showing me the ropes, or telling me, like, this is how you write a motion, or this is how you write anything that I wanted to get done in the Senate. I had to figure that out by trial and error, and reading up on all of the rules myself. For better or worse, I got very familiar with them, and now I chair the Rules Committee. But there were several weeks where I wasn't able to do any of the things that I wanted to do when I came in on the Senate, because the barrier to entry was too high. And I think that's true in terms of inclusiveness as well, that we need to make the barrier for entry lower so that more people can, for one, join in on the process. And then for 2, once they come in here, we want them to do like a wonderful job. And we want them to be able to do that as soon as possible. Because time is really limited when you're on the Senate, when you're on ASUOP, because we only have 1 year to get things done. And it's only a matter of time before other things like school and other obligations come in the way. So one of the things that I want to do, what I'm doing right now and what I want to do as president, is make sure that every position in the ASUOP has, for one, just like a very clear job description, but beyond that, which we have, we need to have comprehensive guides and toolkits and mentors available in ASUOP so that people who come in and want to make a change can. Because right now, some people who come on don't really know what they're doing. I know Reese came in partway through the year just like I did, and I didn't want the same thing to happen to him. So I personally took it upon myself to be a mentor to Reese, to show him the ropes, and eventually he got put on a committee, and now he's doing really great work on behalf of the Financial Transparency Committee. But that isn't possible if the barrier to entry for people is too high. We need to have the people who are in the positions right now to write down basically what they're doing, and beyond that, to be a resource to the people who come after them. And that's where legacy comes in. Because inclusiveness works temporarily if you bring on people who are from diverse backgrounds, diverse races, ethnicities. But if we want to make that last, we have to change the institution of ASUOP to make it more amenable to people coming in and being new and making a big difference. And so the way to do that is with transition packets, is with coercing people or forcing them one way or another to make sure that if you're new, that you have a mentor. If you're from here before, you are a mentor for somebody else. We need to engage in that cooperation within ASUOP to not only just have mentors for people and to make sure that everybody knows what they're doing, how to do it, and can accomplish the best change that they can, but when we encourage those mentorships, when we encourage those cooperations between different aspects of ASUOP, which doesn't always happen, the individuals themselves get a more diverse background of who they're working with. Because our university is very diverse. Stockton itself is one of the most diverse big cities in the US. Actually, it is the most, which is wonderful. And some of that is reflected in our university. And we should make the most of that by making people get in contact with one another. The other way to encourage inclusivity is to, when people are actually on, to make sure that they understand the different social ethnic backgrounds of the people that they're working with, especially our representatives. Which is why, as president, I would mandate that everybody who comes into ASUOP, especially those who work in government positions, partake in diversity training that are various, that we have a diversity office here with a myriad of different resources that I'm sure many people have taken a part in. And that we need those people to come in and talk to our representatives to make sure that they understand the people that they're representing. Because right now that infrastructure isn't there. That's what I would do to make sure that our inclusiveness is robust and that is robust for years to come.
So one of the initiatives that I would have as ASUOP president is by getting more student representation in ASUOP, and by that, a couple ideas that we have is to create chairs of what our campus actually looks like. So we would want a Greek life chair, a diversity inclusion chair, and different chairs for different cultural clubs or for the community, commuter chairs. So just being more representative within ASUOP of what our campus actually looks like is one of the goals that Liz and I came up with when we were brainstorming for our campaign. Because it's really important to us that all students are being represented, not just the ones that are purely interested in being a senator or in government or for their school. We really wanted to be inclusive and bring all students, because we know that all students have concerns, and we want to make sure that they're given the platform to voice their concerns, and it doesn't have to be by the way of just being a senator at large or being a senator of a specific school. If you want to come in and fight for something that you feel strongly about, we want to hear that, and we want to create a position for you. As well as one of the other things of student representation was working with enrollment management and getting representation and holding them accountable for underrepresented students. We lack at that right now, and we want to make sure that people higher up than us are being held accountable for that, as well as there being transparency in ASUOP. So whether that be with the budget or the things that are being agreed on, we want to make sure that all students know about it, and that all students' voices are being heard, honestly. And sorry, I have one more point that I need to look at. So the other thing that we want to increase is, of course, me and Liz can sit on these committees as president and vice president, but we don't want it to just be us. We want it to be students that might not be as involved but want to find a way to get involved and sit on these different committees, because it doesn't have to be just us. We are two people with our opinions on things, with our perspectives, but we do know there are more perspectives out there, and we want to make sure that those are being brought to light and that we can build leadership skills within students who might not feel empowered enough to do so. We really want to mentor and train and build leaders that are in ASUOP and bring them either to ASUOP or to be representatives for ASUOP. They don't necessarily have to be involved, but we want to make sure that we're getting passionate students out there and sitting on these committees so that their concerns can be heard, as well as speaking on behalf of all students, because it's not just us who can speak on behalf of all students.
Thank you, Presidents, for those wonderful responses. Now we're going to move on to our Vice Presidents, and these questions are for you too. Firstly, what is your leadership style, and how will you achieve your platform goals?
Hi, everyone. So my leadership style is hands-on. As my time in the Senate, I've had the great mentor of Kyle, as well as John Gutierrez as Vice President. They've both been amazing mentors in showing me what it is to be a good representative. What I want to do is just be a hands-on representative, because UOP is a school of people-to-people connections. You need to talk to people to get things done, and people are much more willing to talk to you than they would be at bigger universities. If you talk to people, you can get a lot of things done. We have already met with the Financial Transparency Committee has already met with the president, Maria Pallavicini, multiple times, and that's how we're getting these regular meetings done and organizing them. I also want to promote transparency throughout the university and accessibility. Mainly for accessibility, I want to make sure those that are underrepresented, as was stated earlier, are better served. Now, that shows in an ethnic and backgrounds as well, but also just people in different schools like the conservatory, which I'm a part of. Last year, we didn't have as much voter turnout as we would have wanted, and especially in the conservatory. The conservatory's Senate seat was completely vacant. That means essentially nobody from the conservatory voted. We want to get students more involved by advertising what ASUOP has to offer and making it more accessible for people in those groups.
Hello. Again, if you forgot my name, it is Liz Malone. You're going to remember it, I hope. So the question is leadership and platform, right? How we're going to achieve it? Double checking.
I can repeat the question.
Okay.
What is your leadership style, and how will you achieve your platform goals?
Aye, aye, Captain. Thank you. So I am a leader. I'm confident enough to say that now, and I think I have been for the past few years. I have experience leading youth with this new Stockton program called Changeist. It's really great. It gets youth involved with different Stockton issues and social issues especially, and inspires them to make a change. I also have leadership by leading in catering. That's actually where my first job was and has been. Still, I continue to do it on the side. And let me tell you, and I'm sure Randy can confirm, doing catering and party services is just bossing around all day. But I also have leadership experience with an ASUOP, and that is when I was chief of staff, and that was overseeing the cabinet. And I think that position was beyond just seeing the cabinet, but also working with senators. That was a lot of good work, I think. And for example, one of the things I did with the senators was, and the other ASUOP members, was creating manuals for them to follow by in case they were lost. So when they were going to create a bill, this was after, of course, Kyle was joined in ASUOP, but they would give him instructions to do that because we noticed that that was an issue with upcoming senators and government officials. But how I would make, oh, my leadership style in general, sorry. Okay, my style is actually, I want to get up close and personal with my team. I want to make sure that we are all working together. I like to be very involved, but I also just want to be more of a resource for my team. And by team, I mean all of UOP. I mean, come on guys, ASUOP, that's, y'all pay a fee for that. You're paying for us. We want to make sure it's worth it. It's open communication, so if there is, I'm going to propose a plan. If anyone has problems with it, I am going to say, give me your feedback. If you have a better idea, let's do it and let's see how we can make that work. I like to think of myself as a cooperative team player, a leader. And I think through like open communication, that's actually how we're able to actually get things done and how we're able to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. But how I would make my things happen? Well, as vice president, I want to make sure that the senators are actually getting involved with different students and student groups. Yes, it has gotten started this year, but I want to ensure that it is happening. I want to make sure that different student cultural clubs are being reached out to. I want to make sure that low-income students are being reached out to. I want to make sure that commuter students are being reached out to. Greek and social Greeks and professional Greeks are being reached out to. These things matter. This is what makes up Pacific, and so I would really encourage senators to do so, and by working with them and helping create plans and events and so forth for them, so then that these things happen. Okay, let's get things, we have a lot of ideas, let's make sure they happen.
So this is another question for the vice presidents. How will you use your position to best serve the student body?
So I already touched on a little bit about accessibility, but that is really one of my biggest goals in increasing accessibility. I really just want to make sure that we have more one-on-ones with students in those underrepresented schools and peoples. If ASUOP isn't reaching out to people, then we aren't doing our job. We need to be talking to people, we need to be advertising what we have to those people. Also, I want to focus on moving ahead transparency in our school. That is my biggest focus as in the Financial Transparency Committee. ASUOP, or we need to show you what ASUOP is doing. I want to further the reports that senators already have to do to be more detailed, and further that along to all governmental positions in ASUOP. So you know what your representative is doing, and you know how they can serve you. I truly think that is probably the best way to get ASUOP more involved in the student body.
My focus is community. Randy and I have a lot of ideas already of how we can make this happen. And that's something we can go into and you can see on our social media or by just talking to us. But I just want to say by communicating with students while we have been announcing our campaign to others, a lot of students just want to see just small things that make a difference, and I want to ensure that these things happen. For example, a lot of students said they want to see more DUC events on the lawn, or events on the DUC lawn, where we all just hang out, have blankets, and have a good time. I remember last week we actually had Jump Into Elections event hosted by our elections coordinator, Rita. What?
And the wonderful committee.
Oh, and the wonderful committee, of course. But, you know, I was asking students around and I was like, hey, like, this is our campaign, here's our spiel, but what do you want to see around campus that we can make happen? And that actually was a popular response. Actually, another one that I got, though, was from a few people, and that was to add more halal food on campus. Woo! So I think we can work with Bon Appetit to make that happen and to make sure we're getting different and food options and also increasing halal food because we have like a lot of Muslim students on campus that it matters. But yeah, I think like the biggest thing is student outreach and listening to the students and maybe even polling if we have to, doing student surveys, whatever. As long as we're hearing the students and making their things happen, then we're doing our job.
So this question is for everyone. Why should students vote for you?
Hi again. Why you should vote for me? So I've had a lot of experience throughout, even though this is my first year, I have experience in the Senate, and as I've mentioned before, I worked under John Gutierrez. I've seen what an amazing vice president can be. And since that is one of the main responsibilities of the vice president is to lead the Senate and lead each senator, show them what they do, guide them, mentor them. That is the experience that I have and that I want to show each senator how to do. Again, also I want to increase one-on-ones with administration and accessibility of ASUOP. And overall, just make ASUOP more useful and more accessible to every student.
Kyle again. This kind of ties into why I was running for president in the first place. But as far as my qualifications go, a lot of the things that you would want a president to do here, I've done before, in as much of a capacity as someone who isn't president can do. If you want a president who advocates on behalf of students, I feel like that horse has been beaten over and over and over again. I've personally spoken up in many tuition forums. I have written numerous resolutions, legislation, petitioning the university, the administration, to be more transparent. Reese has helped me write some of those. Reese has written some of them himself. And we've also had constant meetings with the administration, especially with Provost, I guess, Interim President Pallavicini. Does anybody know that the president has office hours here? Two? Yeah. They're tomorrow. Last time that I went, nobody else came. It was a little awkward. But if somebody wants to speak on behalf of students, that's one of the things that they should be a part of. I want to also encourage more students to be a part of that. But that's where advocacy comes in. If you want a president who's going to actually speak out and affect some change to make life here better, I'm one of the candidates who's done that before on numerous occasions. I've spoken on tuition. I've helped preserve one of our beloved programs here that is student-centered. And I've also written and spoken numerous times on behalf of students who want to be a bigger part of the decision-making process here at the university. I'd cite again my resolution asking the Board of Regents to include a student regent among their ranks. It's something that's been done at other universities and it's something that would work very well here. But on top of that, I've also done several things in the terms of outreach, which is also what you'd want a president to do, to help include other people into the university. Some of that is through reaching out through the legal scholars. Other times, Liz and I worked together on a COP retention forum. Turnout was mixed, but the organization and the thought behind that and the experience wrought through that was important. And beyond that, I've also authored a couple surveys on behalf of the Senate to try and reach out to the student body, our constituents, in order to make sure that we, the Senate, are doing what the students want. One of the things that I'm working on right now that was just finalized is a survey asking students what questions they want the administration to answer in terms of financial transparency. Some of the things on there are why do we spend more on administration per student than any of our peers by far. And also the same is true of instructional costs. We spend more on instructional costs per student than any university in our peers. And these are questions that we on the Senate thought were important, but we also value the input and we cherish the input of the people who put us into office and who are living their lives out here at the university. And if you want a president who has worked with outreach before, I've done that. Lastly, organization. I think everybody here has touched at least once on reorganizing ASUOP to be more efficient, to be holistically better, to save vocabulary. And that's something that I've also done. One of the things that I talked about before was how I had to basically learn myself the systems of ASUOP, how everything works, the various complicated rules, bylaws that go behind everything. And that was certainly a lot of work, and it's something that we're still working on to make those more accessible for the people to come after us. But that sort of organizational skill is something that you would want a president to have. It's something that I'm working on right now, and it's something that I've been doing since I joined the Senate. These things that you'd want a president to do, to advocate, to reach out to students, and to reorganize, are things that I've been doing since I came here. And I think if you want a president who can do their job effectively, who can speak for you, and who can organize the systems of ASUOP to be better, not just now, but for years to come, that consider myself.
So I kind of want to rephrase the question a little bit and say why you should vote for us, because it's not just voting for me or voting for Liz. We come as a package deal. So why you should vote for us is because we're experienced. Both me and Liz were in ASUOP, but speaking for myself, I've worked with a lot of administrative staff as well as John and Emily, the current president and vice president, and a lot of different people in ASUOP, but around campus. And I've built a lot of connections with people, and I think that I'm well respected by these different people, especially administrative staff. And I know that I can bring these issues to light, and I can be heard by administrative staff and actually affect some change. And I just want to make sure that, like I've said before, that students' voices are being heard and that we're seeing that direct change. But also, I want to make sure that we are doing our best to fight for you, and that we create opportunities for students to give us their feedback, to tell us their concerns. But nonetheless, I want to make sure that underrepresented students like myself are being brought to the forefront in leadership positions. And I know me and Liz strongly talk about that we want to create positions for non-ASUOP affiliated students, because it's really important that we boost morale on campus, and that we listen to what people want to see and actually build those. And I'll kind of just go back and forth. Me and Liz will just go back and forth and say why you should vote for us. So I'll hand the mic off to Liz.
Thank you, Randy. So a vote for us is a vote for a lot of things, a lot of tangible things, which is, you know, the beaded words of inclusion and reorganization and community, but also just embracing the surroundings that we're in. How many of you are scared of the Stockton area, or like to go out at night? No? How many of you have heard bad things about Stockton? Okay, yeah, so it turns from 0 to all. But you know what? We live in a pretty darn good place, and Randy and I are both Stockton locals, and we really hope to like highlight it here. We want to make UOP more involved with the Stockton community, because there is a lot of great things going on here, and we want to showcase it all to the people of Pacific. We also want to just, I don't know, we want to do a lot of things, and I'm just so excited.
And one thing I didn't get to touch on that came up earlier, but I know I kind of mentioned how we have a lot of transition, and Kyle mentioned with the new president. Fun fact, if you didn't know, our new president is actually first generation. So I don't know how many of you guys are out there first generation college students, but I find that important for me. And I think the interactions I've had have been really good, and I see a lot of opportunity, not only with the new president, but the fact that we're getting new people in all the positions around ASUOP. I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive. I see that as a way to create effective change and to bring new ideas and push new ideas and try things that we've never tried before. And that's what I'm all about. I don't like to keep in the same thing. I think I'm not one of those people that's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I think everything can be enhanced, and everything can be made better, and there's always a new opportunity. And nothing seems more of a better opportunity than this upcoming year as Liz and me as your president and vice president to create that change. We would be the first women ticket in a couple years. We would have a new president. We would have new advisors for ASUOP. So I see that as an opportunity to make effective change. But nonetheless, one thing that I like to believe is that you can teach the mechanics of a position or of any type of job, but what you can't teach is passion. Passion comes from the heart. Passion comes from character, from values, from ethics, from morals. And me and Liz have that passion. I think it shows by all the ways we're involved on campus and in the community. We care about our community. We care about not only our Pacific community, but about our Stockton community. And it's really important, like Liz was saying earlier, to not be afraid of the community you live in and to embrace it and enjoy it and see what it is that it has to offer. And that's some of the things that we want to focus on. But yeah, if I'm going to leave you with anything of why you should vote for us, it's because we're passionate, and not only are we passionate, but we have the experience. So that part of not knowing the mechanics of the job, we know what we're signing up for. We wouldn't be up here if we didn't think that we knew, and it's a lot to sign up for. There's a lot of expectations that are held upon us, and we think that we can fulfill those, and that's what we want to do.
We definitely can.
So yeah, vote for us. And just a little plug, on Instagram, we're at Holguin Malone 2020. So like Liz said, if you have any concerns and you can't talk to us in person, DM us on there, comment on our posts, look to see what we have coming up. We're actually going to be on the DUC lawn next Wednesday, so if you want to come talk to us, we'll be at 5, yeah. 5 p.m. We'll be there on the DC lawn sitting on some blankets. We'll have some snacks, some cool little things to pass out. So opportunity for you guys to come talk to us.
Thank you guys for answering those questions so wonderfully. We've heard so many good things about you and everything that you want to do for us. But in light of what Kyle and Reese said about transparency, we really want to get down to, like, you know, the real dirty stuff of, like, who are you really? So the last question that we want to ask you, and I think this will leave room for people to ask you more questions after, is what is the strangest thing about you? Be very real.
So I guess something that's strange, I don't know if some people find this strange, but I've heard that not everybody does this. I'm really into zodiac signs and astrology, and I have Pattern, CoStar, and I really live my life by those apps. Of course, I have my own mind and my own way of processing and knowledge and all that good stuff, but I really do follow astrology, and I can kind of tell who, like, people are, and I'm like, oh, you're a Cancer, and they're like, yeah, how'd you know that? And it's like, I'm really into this. So I guess it's kind of strange that, like, I make that such a big part of my life, but yeah, that's one of my strange things.
If any of you know me in the audience or up on stage, you may say I am a walking ball of strange. Not in a bad way, I hope, but I do a lot of off things like doing parkour and then getting a concussion on the 4th of July because I couldn't do it right. Or, and here's my extra points option to showcase it. I can touch my nose with my tongue. Ready?
I was not ready.
Thank you and good night.
So some of you who know me well, know that I subscribe to the vain belief that I am funny. Thank you so much, Reese. Thank you so much. I really needed that. But that's not the strangest thing about me. Actually, maybe it is, because a big source of my humor is puns. And I know when I say that, people ask me to tell a pun. And so the worst one that I can think of right now is, why did the toilet paper roll down the hill?
Why?
To get to the bottom. And so the strangest thing is that I think that's funny, and I'm going to go home later and laugh about it. Thank you.
That was good.
Okay, well, I am probably the most uncoordinated person in the entire world. And I say this as a music major who has to play piano with 2 hands doing other things. But I think the best instance that showcases that is the first time I tried to ride a skateboard. I stepped on the skateboard, fell backwards, broke my arm, and then haven't touched a skateboard since. I see people, I can't do it. Incredibly uncoordinated.
Alrighty, well thank you for sharing that about yourselves. Can we get a huge round of applause for our wonderful candidates?